FAQ code. Your curiosity quest starts here.
Hello!
Hello.
A bit of Miss Doubtfire there for you.
I was kind of wondering what it was.
Hello!
Toodaloo. Is that when Mrs. Doubtfire has the pie on her face?
Yeah. Hello! Welcome to the QCO podcast. Travis, Danny, and Alan here, ready to go through some questions with you. But first, well, actually, no. You want me to go through the questions first, right?
Yeah, highlight them, and then
He wants me to highlight them first.
there's a very specific...
This is what we got in store for you guys today.
Is some good stuff. This week, so we're going to be talking, Danny's going to be talking about recyclables. So, you know, that's cool.
I was actually pretty interested when he said that. I was like, oh, I've always wondered about recyclables.
Guys are in for a repeat treat.
We had this.
You know what I mean?
We had this
A
talk
recycled treat?
when we were talking on the phone the other day. I was like, so when you told me that you were going to do recyclables, I was like, cool. But I mean, like, that's just not a topic that I would have chosen, because if somebody says this is being recycled, I just assume it's being recycled. I don't even know the process. I just take their word for it. I'm like, okay. But so there's that. Then we'll move in. Alan's got another solar system trivia part 2 for us. So if you enjoyed last week's trivia, you will. Well, no, it was 2 weeks ago.
2
right?
weeks ago, yep.
That's right.
We
Because last
covered
week
the sun and Mercury.
that is right. So
So I hope you guys are in your thinking chairs. You got your thinking caps.
And if I just want to remind everybody that I won the first round.
It's because you have a thinking cap on. I did not bring a hat.
And then we will go into my question, which is something that I've kind of thought about as we get closer to the NFL season. And it's not, I mean, it is a sports topic, but not necessarily. So, I mean, if you're a video game fan, you like, Madden football, this might be interesting. Or, I don't know.
I'm not a big gamer, but is Madden still like the game to play if you're playing a football game?
Pretty much, yep. So basically, and we'll get into this, but is the Madden curse real? So if you don't know what the Madden curse is, I will explain it to you when we get there. But before we get to all that good stuff, I saw something today. I'm super pissed off because these guys have got to see me as I'm searching frantically through my Facebook feed. But this morning I saw something that I wanted to talk about today, and I didn't, like a moron, I didn't even take like a screenshot of it or save it or whatever, but it had various famous cars on there. So some of the ones that I can remember are things like it had a specific James Bond car. It was the silver one. There might have been several
was it a
silver
Jaguar?
ones. Probably a Jaguar. But there was a James Bond car. Let's just say, for sake of argument, any James Bond car.
Okay.
There was the A-Team van.
Okay.
There was the Dukes of Hazzard car.
Truck? Or is it? Oh yeah.
It was
Wait,
the
this
car.
is a sports car.
Yeah, it was like
the orange one.
Yep.
Okay.
Like the Mustang, I think is maybe it was Mustang. I don't know. But that's because none of these cars I would have picked. But there was also Kit from Knight Rider.
Okay.
So the Knight Rider car. There was the Ecto one from Ghostbusters, Batmobile, and the DeLorean.
Okay. I already have my answer.
So which car? And if there's a famous car that you guys know in like a TV show or something that I did not mention, let me know what you, but what's yours? I think I know what your, because it's probably the same thing as mine.
So for me, and this has been one that I've always I've even had like little figurines people have given me of this car because they know that it's my favorite movie car of all time, and that's the DeLorean. in Back to the Future.
Is it really? Like, I've never heard you talk about the DeLorean, and now all of a sudden people are giving you toys.
But no, like
This, like, apparently this
because
is
of
just
what-
a wide known thing that the DeLorean is your favorite car ever.
well, not like my favorite car as far as like
Well, I
something
know,
I'd want to
okay.
drive on a daily basis.
Favorite car ever is a
In-
Mazda CX-9 because that's what you would buy if you had millions of dollars.
Wait, is your favorite car?
But no,
not
it's
what
just
it used
because
to
what
be?
it can do. What?
Do you remember what your favorite car used to be? You would always say the
Subaru.
the Sty. Yeah, Subaru
WRX.
WRX
STI.
STI.
Yeah. Well, that was my favorite. Well, that was my car that I really wanted when I was like 19 to 22 or something like that. But
Okay, DeLorean. All right, Alan.
What were the options? Batmobile, DeLorean,
The Ghostbusters
Jaguar.
car, the A-Team van, the James Bond car, Kit from Knight Rider. If you don't know what that is, that's the
it talks.
It's the one that talks to what's his bucket? David Hasselhoff.
Can I just choose?
Wait, was the bug? What was that?
Oh, Herbie. Yeah, Herbie
was
was
that
in
one of
there.
them?
Yep, Herbie was in there.
Can I just choose the Shelby Mustang GT?
No, it has to be a famous car.
Fine. I would go with the DeLorean, but not for the reasons Danny said, because it can time travel.
Okay, well, mine was.
That's why.
Yeah.
I would want it. I
wouldn't
never
want
said
the
it.
DeLorean and.
I got cut off.
Otherwise, I wouldn't want the DeLorean. It's a piece of crap
fine.
car.
I would want.
It's not
probably,
for the looks.
I would go with Batmobile.
Well, that's what I was saying. I mean, it was between the DeLorean and the Batmobile.
Are we talking the new like the Dark Knight Batmobile?
It was more like.
Or are we talking like the old?
No,
show?
it was
Like
it
the
was
1980s
like
version?
Yeah, Tim Burton Batmobile is really what it looked like. But I mean, shoot, dude. I mean, this is there's no
Fine, I would
rules to
take the
this game.
Batmobile.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably do DeLorean because you can travel
What?
back in time. I said it was between the two, and I was leaning towards DeLorean.
The way
because-
that you reacted when I said DeLorean was like, what?
No, the only
well,
reason why I
the
reacted it
DeLorean.
because
Hang
you're
on.
like, oh well, everybody knows that this is my favorite car. I mean, people were giving me toys about it. I'm just saying, I've never heard you once talk about the DeLorean and how much you love it.
Well, I just love time travel.
Wait, I was joking when I said because it can go back in time, but if we're actually saying that it can do what it does in the movie,
Yeah,
then yes, the DeLorean.
I mean,
100%.
I won't lie. It'd be kind of cool if you had a car that like talked to you, like Kit. But
You could just take the DeLorean into the future far enough and then have
be
it.
like, I would like you to
Yeah.
install the Kit
That talks to me.
program.
Because like
into my DeLorean.
the DeLorean can fly now.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
only problem is like, I mean,
And it runs on recyclables.
with the DeLorean, you're going to run into some issues. I mean,
Yeah, it's very applicable.
you
to
need
today's
1.21
episode.
gigawatts to get it going.
But
So,
there's lightning all
And-
the time.
yeah,
space to get up to 88 miles an hour.
yeah. But when we're going, we don't need roads.
Yeah.
No.
Roads.
So-
we don't need
Anyway,
roads.
yeah, let us know. Or we'll probably. Well, if I can find that post, I will freaking post it. But I don't have any faith in that. I've been scrolling all day.
Like,
I
what
can't
are
find it.
what are the over under odds that Trav even attempts anything further after this show? I think
Probably
he'll just
not.
be, I think he'll be over
Probably
it by
don't
that
think-
point.
I'm done.
And he'll
done.
just be
We've
like,
talked about it.
We've talked about
I
it.
would like to
He's
post
already
it.
looked for it
because I think it would be cool. It's a cool topic. I want to know what everybody would think because I saw in there somebody was like, "I'm taking Herbie." I'm like, "You're taking Herbie?"
the bug
I mean, yeah, maybe Herbie has like
personality,
a personality, but he can't talk to you like Kit.
Yeah.
Kit's got a personality.
I mean, Herbie's good to just like open his door and knock bad guys
yeah,
on the bums
in the mud.
Yeah.
but it's not a Batmobile. It's not freaking Ecto.
It doesn't travel
I mean, I know
through
Ecto
time.
doesn't really do anything, but freaking Ghostbusters. I mean, where can you go wrong with that? But anyway, all right. Well, let's get moving on with our first question. What really happens to our recyclables? Good heavens. Daniel.
And that was a shorty but a goodie. That was shorter than most of them that I've done. That was like only 28 seconds.
Just want to see you do one that's like
I think yours
15.
might be longer.
Mine is not longer than yours.
How many seconds is yours?
It's like not even 20.
Well,
It's 19 seconds.
this is pretty good for me. Less than 30 seconds.
Less than a minute is pretty
But
good.
that was recycled percussion for anyone who was curious what the heck that would have had to do with recycling. These guys were playing drums on like upside down
Milk bottles.
Buckets.
buckets and barrels and ladders.
I mean, is that really like the definition of it? I was just like taking something and then just using it for another purpose. I mean, is that really, has it been recycled? Or is it just you flip the bucket upside down?
I would say it's not as much recycled as like
Just reused.
Yeah, I guess that's
Or
there's a difference.
repurposed.
Yeah, repurpose is what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
because they have like the 3 R's that they're always advertising, and it was like something like reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Or
I don't know. You did recyclables.
yeah, I did read it.
Reduce.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah, there we go. But I did not focus on the 3 R's today. I just focused on one.
1R.
1R, and that's the recycle. So the reason that I ended up doing this topic, which actually turned out to be fairly interesting, is because we had a couple of listeners by the name of Dave and Mary who requested specifically to find out what happens to their recyclables because they wanted to know. So I dug into it, and this is what I found out. If you're not happy with the answer, well, this is all I'm going to do on this subject. So,
Do we know this Dave and Mary?
yes,
Okay.
it's Dave and Mary Cruz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're just going to begin. We're going to set this up a little bit. So back in 1990, something happened in the ocean, Trav. I mean, I'm sure a lot of things happened in the ocean, but I'm going to give you a specific date, May 27th, 1990. What do you think happened?
Oil spill.
What do you think happened?
May 27th, 1990.
Yep.
I would say a island of plastic washed ashore.
Okay. You guys are both wrong. Trav is a little closer because, well, you guys are both right in a way and both wrong in a way.
So ambiguous.
Something
It's like-
petrol based.
It was a spill, and it did have to do with plastic.
Oh, was it straws or something?
So, a container ship that was carrying a whole bunch of Nikes spilled 61,000 sneakers into the Pacific Ocean. And this,
That's the worst place possible. No one has legs there.
that's true. Mermaids
No one has
have
feet.
no use for sneakers. But the reason that I bring this up is because this spill kind of started to highlight an issue that occurs in the ocean, and that is they realized that, hey, 61,000 sneakers spilled into the ocean, but like most of them didn't wash up to shore ever, because they were expecting at some point like these sneakers are all going to wash up on shore, or at least a lot of them will, right? But they didn't, so they had to go back and they started looking for them, and long story short, they ended up figuring out like there are these vortexes or vortices in the ocean that are caused by different currents that are going throughout the ocean in different directions. And they cause these areas that trap garbage or anything that's floating out there in these slower moving areas that are almost
going
like,
round in circles.
Because they're like, it's areas in between the currents that are that don't have the currents pushing things around as much, and they just kind of end up just kind of spinning around in this vortex in there, right? Okay, so that brings up. I was curious. I'm like, okay, so what did they figure out from that? And the one thing they figured out is this is where the origin of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch came from. So if I say the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, do you guys know what that is?
I had a garbage patch, or no, that was Cabbage Patch. Never mind. I had a Cabbage Patch doll. His name was Norbert Pedro. Just so you know.
Did you really?
Yep.
This is not like a movie quote.
No, his name was Norbert Pedro. I'm Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure he was Hispanic, but but yeah.
What was that one John Leguizamo thing? Like getting all the Cabbage Patch dolls, getting all the birth certificates.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty racist, but maybe it happened. I don't know.
But yeah, I've heard about it. It's like I've never seen it. I don't know if there are pictures of it, but it's supposedly like a big island of just garbage somewhere in the Pacific Ocean floating around.
Trav, do you know anything about? Have you heard of it?
Of the garbage?
Of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?
No. Well, no. Is that the one that like you could just go out there in the middle of the ocean and there's people are dumping garbage in there and it's just floating around? Is that it?
No, not exactly.
I heard that somewhere.
Who's doing that?
So, and it sounds like what Alan said. So if you envision, like if I just tell you the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, what do you envision?
I envision a garbage patch in the Pacific.
And Alan sounded like you explained it as what?
An island of garbage.
And that's what I would have initially thought too, is that it was just like this giant island made of plastic floating around in the Pacific Ocean that, over time is collected just plastic from all over the world, right? It's just kind of all collected together. Well, that's not exactly what it is, or as I like to say, that's not entirely the case. Instead, it is a conglomerate of plastic that is from all over the world. But as I explained earlier, the currents take the plastic from various parts of the world, like Asia or the Americas or wherever, and they push them around, and then they slowly end up depositing it into these vortexes. And one of these vortexes is this giant area that they call the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, because that's where a whole bunch of plastic has all congregated.
So it's not like an actual island. It's like more diffuse than that, but it's just where it's a higher concentration of garbage just floating around in those waters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like more of like a grainy soup than it is like a solid island.
Yeah.
Right? So like the way that, and things that I saw, I picture it more as like when you go rowboating or canoeing or whatever in like a pond or a lake, and it has like that algae stuff kind of growing on the top that you can move it out of the way with your oar.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just like this top surface level thing, Mm-hmm. So that's more kind of what it looked like. It looked like when I saw, like, because divers would dive in, and once they dive in, they go through the trash level basically and into the water, but the top has kind of got a whole bunch of things. So they did a thing where they counted like all the different pieces in one area, and then they figured, okay, depending on how many pieces of plastic we pulled out, they figured there's about 1.7 million pieces of plastic per square mile in this area.
7
million pieces of plastic in like per square mile that are in. So
how big is a piece of plastic?
So that's
like
the other
what?
thing is like some of the pieces are bigger, and it can be like a plastic bag. It could be like a part of a cooler. It could be a milk jug or something. But then other pieces are very, very fine, small pieces, like the size of Legos or smaller, right? And so knowing that, so it's not like you said, it's not like a big island. It's just more of this, like you said, this.
And I guess
diffuse.
I guess it makes sense
area.
that it's all stuff that floats, because if it's getting pulled, if eventually it ends up there by the current, anything that sank would have sank long ago wherever it was thrown in, right?
Yeah.
So all the
But with
floating
that
stuff
said,
eventually gets there.
Some of it actually does end up sinking to the bottom of the ocean, but it does float for a long time, a lot of it, and that's why it's sitting there just kind of floating around out there, right? So what happens to plastic is obviously like your papers and metals and stuff, they biodegrade over time, and they end up, that's why you can throw paper somewhere and it just like will turn into dirt eventually, right? Mm-hmm. Well, plastic doesn't do that. It's designed literally not to break down like that. The only thing that happens to plastic is when it sits out in the sun, there's a process called
Degradation.
Degradation. Yeah, that's the word. Photodegradation. The funny thing is I practiced that word.
Degradation.
Because I was like, I'm going to nail this. And then I got to it and...
Photodegradation.
Photo degradation. But that's just basically when sunlight breaks down the plastic and breaks it into smaller and smaller pieces. And that's what happens. So over time, like a big piece can.
So sunlight can actually break it down.
Yeah, but not like break it down to anything other than just smaller pieces of plastic.
Oh, okay.
And then
it can't chemically change it.
Yeah. So this causes a problem because if you have like a gallon milk jug just floating out in the middle of the ocean and you had to go pull it out of the ocean, it's fairly easy, meaning if you just reach down and grab it, right? And pull it out. But if you have all these like really, really like micro-sized pieces of plastic, how do you pull those out of the ocean? And so that becomes a problem. So all of this plastic that's floating around out there is now causing problems with wildlife. They found sea turtles, they found seals, they found sea birds that have all consumed some of this plastic and either get sick or even die from it. Another issue is that there's so much plastic in the area that it starts to block out the sun. And when the sun can't shine through, you have an issue where the algae, the plankton, the plants in the ocean
garbage will blot out the sun.
Can't grow anymore because there's no sunlight getting through or not enough sunlight getting through. So then naturally the animals that eat those, the fish and the different mammals and stuff that come through and eat those, starve or don't come to that area anymore. And then the predators that eat those animals obviously don't have as much food or whatever. So it's like this continual cycle that just perpetually makes the circle of life not work, if that makes sense.
Sunlight and then like is it plankton or algae or whatever that can't grow? Is that what you're saying? If the sunlight doesn't get through?
Yeah. So like the plants basically can't grow.
So you're cutting off the food chain at the very base.
Yeah. And then everything above that gets affected eventually. So they're kind of projecting at this point, if we continue to put plastic into the ocean at the rate that we're doing right now, the total volume of plastic in the ocean, they figure will outweigh that of all the fish in the ocean by the year 2050. So 30 years from now, we could have literally more plastic in the ocean than fish. And so obviously, that's something that I would imagine that most people don't want in this world, except for people who are plastic happy, I guess. I don't know what you would call them.
Someone just needs to invent edible plastic.
Yeah. Well, I've had fish that have kind of tasted like plastic before. That wasn't very good, but, to each his own. So anyway, so this whole garbage patch has become this giant problem. The thing is that it's in international waters, so no single country wants to take responsibility for it. It's just like, look, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's not we can't see it from our shore, so we're not going to worry about it. And the problem is that even if a country decided like, okay, we're going to take it upon ourselves to clean it up, the problem is so big that it would bankrupt basically any country that tried to take on that project. And that is if they could even figure out how to create a system that could pull the plastic out without killing all the animals in the area.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they project that they had 67 large boats trolling up and down for a full year doing nothing but picking up plastic out of the ocean. They would cover less than 1% of the Pacific Ocean after a year. So this would be a huge task to take on. So that is kind of the issue with this whole Great Pacific plastic, whatever we called it. What did I call it? Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Right?
So it's basically it's just like if we don't do anything about it, and eventually it's just going to be a giant dead zone in the Pacific.
Well, that, and I think it could expand.
What the heck happened there? My phone started something.
Trav got so bored he started watching a show.
I think because I scratched my arm and I must have hit play on my watch and it just started playing on my phone.
He literally is listening to another podcast while recording this podcast.
I can multitask.
So anyway, that's the issue. So it goes into the history of recycling through the U.S. We're going to bust through this really quick. So in 1973, the University City in Missouri became the first city in the U.S. to begin a curbside recycling program. And at first, all they did was just pick up old newspapers. People just put them out on the curb. They would come pick them up every once in a while. But then this whole program kept evolving. So by 2006, there was 8,660 curbside recycling programs in the U.S. alone. Early on, these programs consisted of different recycling containers that you would put in. This one's for glass. This one's for plastic. This one's for paper. This one's for metal, whatever it is. But over time now, I mean, at your house, Trav, do you have a recycle can?
Yes.
And what can you put in there?
I think glass, paper, plastic. That's about it.
Like you could put all different kinds of materials in there, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to separate them out.
No.
Yeah. And that's the same as my house, I'm assuming.
Which, I mean, you asked me, do I want to save the earth? Sure, but I'm not going to put things in 3 different bins.
That's too much work. So, but yeah, so they have figured out a way that over time now they have enough technological advances that they have machines that can help sort it for you. So they have machines.
Oh wait, can you put metals in there?
Probably.
Like cans and aluminum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they have machines now that use magnets and electric currents that actually can separate the different kinds of metals that are in there for recycling. They have other machines that use infrared lasers to sort out different papers and plastics. And they do this because as the lasers shine on each different item, I guess there's varying wavelengths, light wavelengths for each different type of material that it emits. Then it knows what kind of material it is.
Spectroscopy.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So anyway, like they've come a long way as far as their ability to recycle things. The pros, other than the environmental benefits that you get from recycling, is obviously money. Like there's a huge market for recyclable goods, and so anytime there's there's money to be made, capitalism will eventually take over, and an industry is going to come out of it, right? So anything that someone can find that's like, hey, this is arbitrage or whatever it is, at some point, if there's money to be made, naturally people are going to flock to that and they're going to create an industry out of it until there's no more money to be had, right? So there is a reason that recycling actually can be good from a monetary or financial position, and that's an incentive that is there. So it's not just that people want to recycle out of the goodness of their hearts, right?
Yeah.
So,
here's just like an idea that, like, I mean, obviously all that material is worth something. If you could get all that material and then use it again that's in the Pacific Ocean, in the whole garbage patch, that would be of monetary value if you can get it for cheap enough, right? If you can get it out of the ocean for cheap enough. I think in the not too distant future, robotics will be to a point where we could create just like some company could create a fleet of thousands or hundreds of thousands of little robots that just go float out there like little boats and pick it all up, autonomously,
or more
and
like,
bring it back to some place or whatever, and then they just process it all.
Yeah, more like strain it or something like that.
Sorry, I'm just picturing.
Or strain it, something.
I'm just picturing like this robot coming back and he's like holding something, like bringing it back to his maker. And the guy's like, you damn robot, that's a rock, you dummy.
I told you to get plastic.
I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Just thinking of like Wall-E.
Kind of. I mean, it's more like, I don't know, it's more humanoid.
Oh, Danny
One of
loves the humanoid.
Danny's
robot.
favorite words.
Huh?
See, I wasn't thinking humanoid at all. I was thinking just something that's specialized for just doing that.
I could see what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah, like these little vehicles that just float on top of the surface
And
of the
like,
ocean.
if they're floating on the,
strain the water until they're full and
have
then they come back.
a little solar panel on it. It just takes care of all the energy needs right there. I think that's just thinking off the top of my head.
And why don't you do it?
How we could could solve it.
So if
and
that works,
it would be a monetary value.
If that works, that would go way ahead of anything that I was able to find as far as what people have thought of. So,
Well, hell's bells, guys! I found my calling.
so good job. You should come up with it, and you seriously would probably be a billionaire very quickly.
I just need to go to school for robotics.
Do it.
Kid.
Do it now. Do it good. Do it just like you should. Isn't that a song?
It is now.
Want it to be?
No, like it's not a
No,
famous
it's-
song though.
I think
Does
you're
not
thinking
ring a
of
bell.
a kind of adult song. It's like, lick it now, lick it good, lick it just like you should.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I've heard that song and I just changed the words. But anyway, so through all this, right, what is actually happening to our recyclables? Like, where are our recyclables going? That is the question that this whole thing was stemmed from. So I call it enter China. So for years and years, China was a huge importer of all of the world's recyclable goods. They would just import it in mass, and then they would process it there because, like I said, there's actually value to these goods, right? But a couple years ago, China realized, like, dude, we don't want everyone's trash anymore, because everyone was just sending them like everything, whether it was recyclable or not. And so they're like, we're going to start putting like strict restrictions on this. So starting January 1st, 2018, China said, we're no longer taking the crap. Like, we will take the good stuff, but we're not going to take the crap anymore, which is understandable. If you're a country, right? You wouldn't want...
What do they define as crap?
Like items that are unrecyclable.
Ooh, that was a golf ball. We'll take that. That's 3-year-old, been in the sun for 3 years, milk jug. No, thank you. That.
Dirty diapers.
Yeah.
Get that at my face.
We ain't going to recycle that. But Americans every year recycle roughly 66 million tons of material, and about 1/3 of that they were exporting to China. So this became an issue suddenly, where China's just out of the blue. I mean, I don't know how out of the blue it was, but according to this timeline, it seemed pretty out of the blue. It's like, we're not taking it anymore. So then not only the U.S., but the world kind of had to be suddenly just like scramble and just wonder, like, what are we going to do with all this stuff now that we don't have the place to store it? We don't have the capacity to process it all ourselves. Like, we've been so used to just exporting it to China, right? So a few other countries, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, they all kind of came up and said, all right, we'll start importing a little bit more, because they had a few facilities there. But they couldn't import enough to make up for the difference. So like last year alone, the amount of recyclable goods that the U.S. typically exports dropped by 40%. So 40% of the stuff they typically would have exported, they couldn't export, right? So what happens with all of this stuff when all of these countries suddenly can't export these things that they're used to exporting anymore, is that they just build up. And for a long time, like, they always had a certain amount of the stuff. And again, this comes back to some of it is just not recyclable. And not recyclable means it's just types of plastic that you really can't recycle. It is, if plastic's been sitting out for over a year, it starts to break down and degrade to the point where you can't make any quality plastic out of anymore, and it becomes unrecyclable. Food stuck on it can cause it to not be recyclable. So there's like a lot of reasons why chemicals on certain things can't be recycled, that a lot of it can't be recycled, and that would just end up eventually being shipped to landfills and dumped at a landfill. Well, now that we have all this extra material, even though it's good material, there was nowhere to take it, so eventually they just had to landfill it. So there's so much of the stuff that should have been recycled that was suddenly now just being taken.
Throw it into the great garbage patch.
It's already there. I mean, what else should we do with it? So now that's kind of just been the answer is, well, we just got to throw it away, which is kind of sad, because there's a lot of material that could have been recycled that isn't recycled anymore. Mm-hmm. So now that China's no longer accepting all this stuff, what else can you do with it? That's the question. Like,
well, obviously, like, in my head, the two issues, like I said before, are manpower and then energy, because you need energy to process it all, right? It's going to take a lot of heat to melt stuff down and reprocess and everything. So that's why I am optimistic about autonomous robots. Like I was saying, that's all the manpower you need. You don't need humans out there doing it.
It's going to become the autonomous robot show.
You just make a fleet of robots. That's all the manpower you need to gather it, and then to process it, and then the energy. Elon Musk is doing awesome things with solar. I think solar is going to take off soon. I think we're really going to eventually get into this green energy environment where we have a lot of energy.
Yeah, there's a
For
lot that you have to
cheaper.
go through to get solar.
So, like, isn't
But-
Elon Musk trying to come up with roof shingles?
He
that
already
are
did.
actually, or he did come up with roof shingles that are actually solar panels, and you can just shingle your roof with those. Have you seen them, Trav?
I've heard of them,
Oh.
but there's
Would
issues.
you put those on your house?
No,
Why?
Why?
because they're not functional yet. It's a technology that hasn't been perfected. So you'd basically shingle your whole house, and then one thing would go wrong, and you'd be spending tons of money to upkeep, your
But
solar
eventually
shingles.
it could get
Eventually,
good.
yeah. But technology isn't there yet. Solar. If you want to know my real opinion, is that solar technology hasn't met, like, with how much you have to pay for it. I mean, it used to be better because there was a lot of incentives, but now the incentives have pretty much gone away. So there's like no more tax breaks, or if there are, they're very minimal, and they're just going to disappear. So now what you have is you're just going to be spending a lot of money for solar, where it's kind of like I think of it this way. It's like the best thing to do for people is to eat healthy, right? But eating healthy is actually way more expensive than it is to eat like crap. So that's why we're all fat. But so, like, in the same thing with solar is actually the right way to go, but it's just not affordable. And you can have as many people knock on your door and tell you that it is, but it really isn't. And until that day where it becomes affordable to where, like, most people can get it without having to bank on getting those tax credits, your power companies are going to rule the world, and they already do. So it's just they're going to have to gain so much traction that they're going to be able to overpower the not just the power companies, but the oil companies and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what we're fighting here.
And some of the most powerful corporations and entities in the world.
Yeah. So when you say, solar is about to break through, like, maybe, but it's still got a long way to go, because what they're doing is they're continually upgrading and updating the solar technology, but it keeps getting more and more expensive. And so until they're able to meet where it becomes affordable for the average Joe, it's not going anywhere.
Well, that, and I think the other big issue with solar is not just the technology and getting the cost down, which is obviously a huge portion of it, but the other half is they don't have the technology quite there yet to be able to store the energy that it creates.
Which
so
is why,
basically
you
have to, because we have solar panels at our house, but we're plugged right into the grid, so we're literally just putting it back into Rocky Mountain Power.
Yeah, because whatever's left over, you're just shooting it back, and they're supposedly giving you credits,
because
right?
we don't have the capability of storing our own energy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing Elon Musk is working on, is battery storage for solar. Because there's a cool interview I saw with him where there's a reporter that was like kind of trying to stump him when it comes to solar. So she was like, well, in China, the most populated country in the world, and like the cities are like so huge, and they're buildings stacked on each other, like high rises, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't have solar in cities like that. So it's never going to happen. And he's like, well, actually, that's where batteries come in handy. You have batteries on every building, every apartment unit plugged into the grid, and the grid is coming from most of the population of China is on the coast. Like, that's the vast majority. Tons of open space in China. He said literally you could easily power all of China with solar that way. If you have big solar farms in vast open areas, and then they're just feeding energy into the cities.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, solar energy they came out with wind energy and having like those, like
the turbines
and stuff, and that's all fine and dandy, and it works, but it does not work nearly as well as solar energy.
As we need it to right now.
Because also, that type of stuff is, you have windy days, I guess you could fight the fact, like, sometimes you don't have sunny days, but Solar still works when it's cloudy.
Yeah, but
that's what it comes.
That's
back
where
to
is the batteries.
Yeah.
If you can store when you get it,
Because if you could store enough, like in the summer months, to like take you through the winter.
I mean, I'm optimistic that it'll eventually get there, but
chipmunks with acorns.
Yeah, but it's not somewhere. It's not.
I
soon.
agree with you, and I would say it's like 20 years off at least till we're like even.
Do you miss the solar
to all solar
industry at all, Trav?
No, but then again, I wasn't really. I mean, I was recruiting for the solar energy or for the solar industry. I wasn't actually participating in it. So, and I was only doing it for 10 months. So there's not a lot of.
But you sold Danny on it, didn't you?
I just referred him.
Oh.
I just said, if you're interested in it, I had nothing to do with actually selling him on it. He had a sales guy come and talk to him. So, but I warned the sales guy when he was coming over. I said, dude, this isn't an easy sell by any means. I said, you are going to have to give him facts. The kid literally lives and dies by facts. And
Is that why he came in and he's like had all these numbers and spreadsheets ready, and he's like, I was told that you really need to see like all the numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is true.
I said, and that's basically what I told him. I said, look, if you want to make a sale, you have to show him how it's going to benefit him, and not just by telling him, don't use words. He doesn't like words. He sucks at words. Show him numbers. Show him stats, data. Like, that's how he's going to understand it.
And he's like, no wonder I was so impressed.
I
really thought that company had it down.
Yeah.
I think the only word he said was hello. And then it was just like numbers after that.
Hello. 7.2 times. But anyway, I think we've gotten a little off topic,
but yeah, no, exactly. And that's cool insight to have from Trav, who actually worked in the industry for a while. So, so the point is that we were getting back to is, yes, like a lot of this unused recyclables, especially plastic, ends up in landfills, which is not good for the environment, because when things sit there and biodegrade, especially like organic material, it creates methane gas. And actually landfills are the third largest producer of methane gas in the world, and methane actually causes problems in our atmosphere and with our climate, right?
Yeah.
So the other option you can do with plastic is, I guess you can burn it, but you can burn plastic. And there's actually companies out there that do that. They burn plastic to create energy. So it's like another form of creating energy. But the downside of that is burning plastic produces carbon emissions and other harmful chemicals such as mercury and lead, and puts that into the atmosphere. And so it's been found that burning plastic actually causes more harm than even burning coal does.
Yeah, because if you ever burn plastic, it's just like black smoke, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's not like a clean form of creating energy by any stretch of the imagination. So this is all to say that basically our recyclable system is just broken. Like, it just needs a major overhaul. So for us to move forward and make this more viable, like, we need to really revisit and figure out what we're doing and what we're doing wrong. There's several things, like they call it virgin plastic and paper, but basically meaning if you're just creating paper and plastic new, it's cheaper than creating it if you're creating it from recyclable goods. So because it's cheaper, all the companies and a lot of companies and people just look at the numbers, and they're just like, well, it's cheaper, so I'm just going to buy that one, right? Because it saves us money. So they're fighting an uphill battle with that already when it comes to recyclable goods. But then through each year, on average, they create about what they say 78 million tons of plastic around the world. And here's kind of the breakdown of what happens to that plastic. So of that 78 million tons of plastic, each year, 14% of it actually does get collected for recyclable purposes. So people putting it in the recycle bins, or different companies trying to recycle it or whatever. But only 2% of that actually gets recycled into useful, reusable materials. So the rest never actually gets recycled because it can't be, or for whatever reason.
It just goes in the landfills.
Yeah. So, and then 14% gets burned. 40% ends up in landfills. So the huge portion of it ends up in landfills. And like 32% of it ends up just polluting the environment in some way, one way or another. A lot of it ends up in the oceans. And that's what.
So if I filled up to the brim my recyclable bin outside, then like the bottom half a foot would probably be recycled.
Not even that much.
Not even that.
2% of it would get recycled.
Oh, 2%.
Yeah.
So like
The bottom
maybe
inch
an
or
inch of
something.
it.
Yeah. Would get recycled.
The hell am I putting it all in there for?
How does that make you feel, Trav?
Just doing your part, man.
But at least 2% of it's getting recycled. It could be worse, right? So, but that's where the system is broken, is like all this plastic. And only, I mean, to begin with, only 14% of it even gets collected for recyclable use. But most of that apparently isn't even getting recycled. So another issue is that governments aren't really necessarily being helpful in this whole situation, because they've created systems and incentives that encourage people to fraud the system, do nefarious acts that are actually not in the best purpose or the best, what's the word?
Interest
of the recycling system, right?
Yeah.
So there's a story in 2002. There was a guy in New Hampshire who was charged with fraud because he created a company that he claimed would go pick up fluorescent light bulbs from school districts and other government facilities, and said, like, we're going to go pick up your fluorescent light bulbs and then we're going to go recycle them. And so they paid him a fee to do that. He would just go around his company and they would just pick up all these light bulbs, and supposedly he was recycling them. Well, eventually it was figured out that all he was doing was he was picking them up and then he was finding empty abandoned buildings all over the country and just shoving all of the light bulbs in those buildings and not doing anything with them. And he was just collecting the fee. So he just was defrauding the system by not really recycling them, claiming he was, and then just dumping it in random buildings. And I'm sure eventually...
It's like buildings he didn't even own?
It sounded like it was, just random empty buildings. He would just find like an abandoned building somewhere and he'd just fill it up with these fluorescent lights.
This homeless guy comes home to his abandoned building where he lives. He's like, what the hell is... Where all these light bulbs come from? What's going on?
So I mean, you have stuff like that happening. Another major thing is in the United Kingdom, they created a subsidy program that they were hoping would spur recycling. Because, I mean, I think in the U.S. sometimes it seems like we're kind of behind when it comes to recycling compared to like some of the European countries and some of the Asian countries even. But yeah, in England, they started this program. They're like, basically, hey, if you go recycle, if you're a company and you recycle goods, we're going to pay you X amount for the goods that you recycle, and in hopes that this will also help spur you and you can purchase new technology and figure things out and make the system better over time, right? That was kind of the whole idea of it. But they built this whole system based on weight. And so the problem is all these companies would take the goods to recycle it, but only about 50% of everything they collected they could actually recycle. So they could only get paid on 50% of the total weight because they only get paid on what they actually recycle. On the flip side, part of this program was also to pay exporters. So if you're an exporter of recyclable goods, you get paid per weight by the weight too of what you export. But the thing is, they could export everything, the stuff that can and can't be recycled all at once, but they get paid for the full amount of the weight. So you have companies doing all the hard work, trying really hard to recycle goods, and they're getting paid less than the guy who's just exporting all the goods.
Yeah.
Right? Like the full weight of it. And so this caused fraud because, I mean, there's one guy who got caught because he was exporting a bunch of stuff. And then it turns out that he was exporting it just all over the world. And then he just had property in different countries that he would just pile all the plastic on. And he had no intent of actually recycling it. He was just, once the paperwork was done that said he exported it, he would just get paid because there was nobody in the government that was actually checking up on where the things were going and what was happening to the recyclable goods. So all this is to say that, yeah, like it's a broken system that needs to be fixed. And so I think for me, the best way to fix this is just start at the bottom and work your way up and start training individuals, start training people like me, like Trav, like Alan, and teaching them like, okay, well, what can be recycled, right? So, for example, in America, how much trash do you think on average the average person creates per day?
A lot.
By weight?
Yeah, by weight.
20 pounds. 30 pounds.
Oh, I was going to say like
50 pounds.
10.
Wow, you guys must create a lot of trash.
5 pounds?
I'm just throwing it out there.
5 pounds, yep. 5 pounds of waste per person per day in the U.S. is average. But to know basically what of that waste can be recycled and what can't be recycled, to teach people that from the get-go would go a long way. Not only that, if you teach them that, maybe they'll be more cognizant of the things they purchase, like the way that it's packaged or whatever, and then only maybe they'd focus more on things like, hey, this is recyclable packaging, so I'm more willing to purchase that than I am for this other product that's not recyclable. Teaching things like we talked about earlier, you can't have food on top of your various plastics or even paper things that you want to recycle. Like a pizza box, technically, if you want to recycle it, you can't recycle the whole thing because there's cheese stuck on the bottom.
Yeah.
So if the top is clean, you can tear off the top and recycle that portion of it, and then the other portion you're supposed to throw in the trash because apparently these like gum up the machines and stop the production of the recycling. I think personally, if they go
gum
back,
on it, don't recycle it.
yeah. I think if they go
Gum up the
back
machine.
to the separate bins, I think that could actually help teach people from the ground up, because then they'll know, like, specifically in this bin you can put these glass things that follow this criteria. You can put these aluminum cans. You can put these paper products, whatever it is, as opposed to like, because I'm one for sure that just it's a catch-all. Like anything, pretty much. I'm like, I think this can be recycled. I just put it in the recycle. I don't know how you do it, Trav, or not.
Yeah, I just throw things in the bin.
Because like I for sure have been one that's like, I'll eat like a potato salad, right, out of like a container, and then I'll just throw it in the recycle because I'm like, it's plastic. Mm-hmm. It can recycle, right? Just like stuff like that.
In my head, I thought they would have worked that out by now. Like I was like, they're smarter than me. They know what they're doing with recycling. Like they probably know how to get the food off.
Yeah, and I think that's what most people think, but apparently there's still a long way to go, or there's just things that they can't recycle, like I said, and like with earlier, like all the reasons that you can't recycle certain things. So in the end, if we can just educate everyone, know what they can and what they can't recycle, start from there, and hopefully that'll start putting pressure on governments to start creating better subsidy programs that will help deter the fraudsters and incentivize the people actually doing the work correctly, and then eventually, hopefully, the world can be a better place, I guess. And that's the whole purpose of recycling.
And eventually, fleets of autonomous robots and solar power
can clean up the ocean, because that needs to be done too at some point. So, but that's just your quick little recap, apparently, on where recyclables go or ending up now in the world. So.
Saying quick little recap does not make it a quick little recap. But let's move on to Alan's solar system trivia part 2. It's the same thing that you
Yeah. Was I supposed to change it up every time?
No, I don't know. I just gotta remember. It was 2 weeks ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Solar System Trivia Part 2. Venus and Mars.
Before we start the solar system trivia game, I would just like to point out that if we ex-nay the solar panel discussion, my part came in at under 30 minutes.
Okay, that was my fault. I added a lot of time to that.
No, it was a good discussion.
But yeah.
I'm just teasing Trav.
Okay. Let's go.
For some reason, anytime I can talk about Elon Musk, I do it.
Is your favorite CEO?
Yes, indeed.
Who's your favorite CEO, Trav?
I don't have one. Never thought about that.
All right. So you guys know how this game works. You remember, right?
Yes.
Okay. We are going to flip a coin for who goes first. Who's going to call it?
I did last time, so you're up.
Tails.
Heads.
Yeah.
Come on.
Did Danny lose last time?
Yes.
It's a 25% chance that I lost both weeks in a
Is it
row.
15 questions again?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's go with...
And don't get any ideas about the bonus question. It's not the same type of thing anymore.
Let's go with number 5.
Number 5. All right, you're going to keep track of score for me?
Yep.
Sweet. So number 5. True or false? Mars has one of the largest canyon systems in the solar system.
True.
You suck.
Yay.
Correct.
See, why does he get all the 50-50 things? Coin flips, true falses. He gets them all right.
All of them. It's the first question.
What we call the Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and attains a depth of over a mile. But it pales in comparison to the Valles Marineris, I think that's how you say it, located on Mars, which stretches 2,500 miles long, 120 miles wide, and 4.35 miles deep.
Why do we have to name them such weird things?
I know.
Like, I mean, we're the ones naming them. Why do we have to name it something we can't
Valles
pronounce?
Marineris.
Like, are you wondering like why we don't just name it the Big Grand Canyon?
Or just like BAC, Big Ass Canyon. On Mars.
They just call it back.
Yep. So, anyway, that's just my thought. But
What number did you pick, Trav?
5.
Let's go 15.
15. Is there some type of game theory you're running here? Just kidding.
Yep, this one's worth 15 points.
All right. Why is Mars red? A, it's an illusion caused by the way the sun's light hits it. B, Mars isn't red. C, its surface dust contains large amounts of iron oxide. Or D, the soil of Mars is still soaked with the blood of billions of Martians that were wiped out in the Great Martian War of Stardate 4153.7. That's why there aren't Martians living on Mars anymore.
It's
So
most
I'm
likely.
glad how you wrote that answer. But you were probably like, no, billions. There's billions, not
It
millions.
was.
It's C.
See? Correct. The rocks and soil on the surface of Mars contain dust that is primarily made up of iron. Wind eroded these surface rocks and soil, and ancient volcanoes blew iron out, spreading it all over the planet. When this happened, the iron within the dust reacted with oxygen, producing a red rust color. So Mars is red because it has a layer of rusty dust covering its entire surface.
Rusty dust.
Rusty dust. So it's basically like in southern Utah and Arizona, the red rock canyons you get. It's the same
Basically
stuff.
Mars.
Yep.
It's like, man, my dust rusted.
And it's the same reason your blood is red is
It's iron.
yeah.
I'm going to go with number 2.
Number 2. The tallest volcano known in the solar system is on Mars. How tall is it? 2 miles, 13 miles, 300 miles, or 2 feet taller than Mount Everest?
I'm going to go with B.
Correct.
Suck.
13 miles.
Why do you know all this, Trav?
Olympus
I'm a
Mons.
Mars aficionado.
He wants to live on Mars.
He knows all things Mars.
Olympus Mons is a 13-mile high and 373-mile diameter shield volcano that was formed billions of years ago. Scientists have found a lot of recent evidence of volcanic lava, which suggests Olympus Mons may, emphasis on may, still be active.
Okay. So, I mean, just to answer your question, we know how much I don't want to live there. I got to do my research. I'm like, dude, there is a volcano that is 13 miles high that could still be active. You think I want to live on that surface of that planet?
Plus, all of the dust is rusty.
Super rusty.
I can get cancer.
And there's no oxygen.
I can't go outside.
What's the shot you have to get if you accidentally get poked with a rusty nail? Is it tetanus?
Yeah, tetanus. You freaking be eating tetanus shots for breakfast.
Got my morning tetanus gummy.
Yeah. All right, what number do you
I don't
want?
think I've had to hit the incorrect button yet.
Not yet.
12.
You're about to.
12.
After this turn,
What's the score?
2-1. I know it's very complicated so far.
We've had 3.
Guys, I have to locate the questions, read them, and push the correct or incorrect buttons. All right.
That's tough.
How long is a year on Mars? A, 1 Martian year. B, 687 Earth days. C, 1.88 Earth years. Or D, all of the above.
All of the above.
Correctamundo.
Sorry, I had to do the math really quick. I had to take 365 times it by 1.88 and make sure that it equaled the 600.
And you did it. I was going to say, yeah. You did it without mumbling during that.
We all make strides in life.
All right, let's go with.
Yeah, hang on.
Oh, that's
My
right. You've
quip.
got your
My
quip.
quip.
Whip. Whip.
Because it orbits the sun at an average distance of 141.6 million miles, roughly 48.6 million miles further than the Earth, a Martian year is 1.88 Earth years.
So, if you want to know what's even more impressive than a lot of this stuff, is the fact that I would assume there's roughly 50%. So maybe even if there's 7 questions on Venus and 8 on Mars, the fact that we have not chosen one Venus
That's
question
true, huh?
Yep.
I didn't
so
even notice
far
that.
is statistically becoming pretty improbable.
Yep. I'm gonna choose number 4.
Number 4. A 100-pound person would weigh how many pounds on the surface of Mars?
What are the chances?
What?
All right. A 100-pound person would weigh how many?
How many pounds on the surface of Mars? A, 8 pounds. B, 18. C, 28. D, 38.
Read them one more time.
8, 18, 28, 38.
38.
This is
And do you know what?
amazing.
Do you know what's cool that I didn't realize until I was putting this together? Last week,
That's the same as on Mercury.
yeah, last week I had the same question, but how many pounds would a 100-pound person weigh on Mercury? And it was 38 pounds. And I was like, did I mix them up or something? And then I went and looked it up. And Mars has slightly a fraction of a percent more gravity, but it's still basically 38 pounds.
But it keeps you the same
So,
weight.
yeah, Mars and Mercury. I didn't know basically the same exact gravity.
Sweet.
And Trav got that same question last week, and he got the right answer last week.
So of
Actually,
the planets,
I think I got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I got it, but
of the planets in our solar system, Mercury has the lowest surface gravity, which is 38% of that of Earth. Mars comes in a second with just a fraction of a percent more gravity. Thus, on both planets, a 100-pound person would weigh approximately 38 pounds.
I'm glad we read that twice.
I didn't read it before.
he just knew what it was
Word for
because he
word.
wrote it down earlier.
Already said it.
Okay.
I wanted to read
All
my
right,
quote.
what are the chances that we get 6 Mars questions in a row? I'm going to go number 14. Why are you already going to circle it?
Because I've already figured out what you're doing. He's making strategy where there needs to be no strategy.
What
It's
is he
not a
doing?
strategy. It's just I let
Bullcrap.
you
He's
do all the-
mirroring what I'm doing, just in the higher end.
Okay, Trav. First of all, did you take like some kind of enhanced medication? Between like the last time I saw you, because you are like picking up on everything that I'm doing.
I am very intuitive. It's what my job is. I'm a
He's 100% on his Mars knowledge. He freaking knows a ton about solar panels, which is awesome. And he caught on really quick that I am mirroring his.
Yeah, I knew that.
numbers.
I knew that after the first one. So, well, maybe after the second one. I had my suspicion after the first one, but
You took the limitless pill.
yeah.
All right. This one's for Danny.
Yes.
The atmosphere of Venus.
No, now
to an
it's
end.
friggin' done, son.
The atmosphere of Venus is blank times denser than the atmosphere of Earth. 0.6, 10, 5, or 90. How many times denser than
All
the
right,
atmosphere
I'm taking
of
out
Earth?
the.
More dense?
I'm taking
Is
out the
denser a word?
0.6.
Maybe.
It was 0.6, 5, 10, or 90.
Yep.
Denser than that of Earth. It's definitely not 0.6. I think it's more than 5. 90 seems. I'm going to go 10. 90! I mean, no.
I will say 90.
Son of a gun!
Yep, it's 90.
Trav, I don't like this game. Venus is the terrible
You've
planet.
done this twice now.
We're 100% on Mars.
Where you where you give the answer away after you get it wrong.
It sucks.
All right. About the same pressure that is exerted. Wait, what did I write here? Oh, so it's 90 times the pressure of Earth's atmosphere, which is about the same pressure that is exerted on an object on what is it? Where did I write? Oh, that is exerted on an object 1 kilometer deep in the Earth's ocean.
Oh. I wish that you could have just said that verbatim like you did the other one without reading it.
All right, I'm going to mess Danny up here because there's no way he can mirror this. 7.
Bastard.
7. How long is a Venusian year?
A Venetian year is the same as America. I'm just kidding.
What? Just kidding. Okay. A, 50 Earth days, 1.2 Earth years, 224.7 Earth days, 477 Earth days. So 50 days, 1.2 years, 224 Earth days, or 477 days.
Let's go. Why is one like year, but then everything else is in days?
Because I was running out of things to write, and so I was just like switching it up.
Let's go C.
Did that help you with the answer?
I don't know.
Come on!
224.7 Earth days.
He gets all the easy ones.
How is that easy?
Did you know?
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay, at 25 million miles closer to the sun than the Earth, Venus makes one orbit in 3/5 the amount of time. Some of these I had like nothing I could really write, so I was just like, they're really just
So
Duh.
it's just another way to
Yeah,
explain the
basically.
question. Okay. Number 17.
There's no 17.
And
how would that
Because he
even-
chose 7. Number 9.
number 9. True or false?
You better get it right.
I cannot get any 50-50 things right. This is terrible.
All the planets in our solar system rotate in the same direction around their axis.
This is not a question about Mars and Venus per se. It's a question about all the planets.
But this is a question that includes Mars and Venus.
All the planets in our solar system
True.
rotate in the same direction around their axis.
True.
Come on! Travis for the steal?
would say false.
What's the score now?
6-2.
6-2?
Yeah.
We really need.
You're only a 2?
You better have that other question at the end.
Okay. As seen from above the Earth's North Pole. So if you're above our solar system, above the Earth's North Pole.
That was implied by the way you said that.
All planets in our solar system rotate in a counterclockwise direction, except for Venus. That's where Venus comes in. One theory of why this might be is that when the solar system was younger, an enormous impact knocked Venus upside down.
I hate Venus. Venus has screwed me over so many
Venus.
So yeah, Venus.
So many times. How many other times has Venus screwed you over?
At least 2 other
At
times in this
least
game.
2 times. All right, I'm gonna select question 1.
1. I'm assuming that's going to be at the top above 2.
Probably.
Venus is the blank planet from the sun. 3rd, 1st, 2nd, or 4th?
4th. Oh wait, no, 2nd.
The second would be my answer.
I thought we already did the 2nd. Like, I'm going through it. I'm like, yeah, but the sun doesn't count as the first one. So,
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for throwing me a bone there,
yeah,
Trav.
there you go.
You were thinking Mercury was 2nd.
If I would have given myself just a little bit more of a thought, like I would have gotten it.
All right, we need a few more of those.
So, again, this isn't really knowledgeable, but at a distance of 67.24 million miles, Venus is the 2nd planet from the sun.
I don't know why he finds that so
Because
funny.
he's just literally repeating just with more words than the actual question.
He should be on Jeopardy because by the time he answered one question, the show would be over. Well, I guess you won again. We've only got one question through.
But
Right.
it had the knowledge of 67.24 million miles from the sun.
All right, number 11.
11. Let me find 10 so I can find 11.
Why not just find 11?
Well, they already found her in season 1 of Stranger Things.
The fact that you know Stranger Things just boggles my mind.
Is that
because
Stranger?
I actually thought
Thing
that
to
her
you?
name was 11 because they just call her L.
it is.
It is 11.
I know, I forgot. Her name was 11 because they just call her L.
I thought you said I thought they call her
Oh,
11.
yeah, I just thought they called her that. They do.
Okay.
This is Danny's.
Yep.
How many moons does Venus have? 0, 1, 2, 0 moons, but it does have a super dim and diffuse ring that was discovered in 2016.
All right. It's not that one. I'm going to go.
I was hoping Trav would get that.
I'm going to go with 2.
2 for Venus?
Okay, well, I've got a 50-50 chance.
Because I asked you this, that was in the other one about Mercury. And you were like, why is it so specific? Because you chose it and got it wrong.
Yeah. It's
But
very specific.
It is that one, Trav.
Yeah, okay. What were-
0, 1, 2, or then the...
Okay, then the specific one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with 0.
Oh, wait.
Hey!
You gave me a glimmer of hope.
So I forgot about
I freaking hate Venus. It's my least favorite planet now.
I forgot about this quip that I wrote because I couldn't think of anything to write. So I forgot I didn't write anything, but I just wrote space holder. So I have no quip on that
Literally
one.
in space.
It just has no moons.
Just holding.
What else can I
space.
say? Yeah.
All right, let's go with number 3.
3. Venus is the blank planet. Smallest, farthest, fastest, or hottest?
Smallest. You know what? Do I do this every time you get one wrong?
Danny's doing it. Yeah, how many little dances?
I'm only
can you
doing it because I'm so far behind. I want this to be respectable at the end. All right. I'm
far
going to
behind
go.
are you?
I'm going to go with hottest. I'm 3 behind right now.
And there's how many left?
4.
4.
13.
13. Oh, where's my quip? With its incredibly thick atmosphere composed of 96.5% CO2 to hold heat in, Venus gets the trophy for hottest planet in our solar system, registering an average surface temperature of 864 degrees Fahrenheit.
Dun, dun, dun. By Madden.
What number did you say?
He didn't.
13.
Oh. 13.
Lucky number 13.
What is the diameter of Mars? And this one's just a 50-50. I only did two choices.
Well, that sucks. Now just might as well give the point to Trav.
What is the diameter of Mars? 2,106 miles, 4,212 miles. And do you notice anything about those numbers, Danny?
One's double the other.
Yep. So 2,106 miles, 4,212 miles.
The diameter, not the radius.
Yeah, the diameter. Radius would just be
Half of it, which is, so I think the radius is the 2,000, so I think the diameter is the 4,000.
correct. Earth's diameter is 7,917 miles, while Mars is 4,212 miles. Put another way, Mars is 53.2% the diameter of Earth.
Woohoo!
Ooh. All right. Number 6.
How long does it take Venus to rotate 360 degrees on its axis? 243 Earth days, 1.08 Venusian years, 6 Earth hours. Or D, both A and B. Do you want me to read them again?
Yes, please.
Okay. A, 243 Earth days. B, 1.08 Venusian years. C, 6 Earth hours. Or D, both A and B.
I'll just pick D.
Okay. Come on. Any test taker knows that if there's an all of the above or both this and this.
That could have been something you could have told me back in school.
high
Just so
school.
you
Yep.
know.
Trav, I'm
So-
telling you now.
So basically, 243 Earth days is equivalent to 1.08 Venusian years.
Sweet.
This has some cool facts. Because its rotation is so slow, Venus is very close to perfectly spherical, meaning like its centrifugal force isn't bulging it out at its equator because it's spinning so slow. But a Venusian sidereal day, that's just a fancy word for rotates 360 degrees. Venusian sidereal day lasts longer than a Venusian year, 243 versus 224.
That would
days.
suck to be a kid on that planet.
Could
Your
you
parents are like, we're going to Disneyland tomorrow. You're like, come on, just why not next year?
Venus's equator rotates at 4 miles per hour, whereas Earth rotates at 1,037 miles per hour. Venus's rotation has slowed down in the 16 years between the Magellan spacecraft and Venus Express visits. Each Venusian sidereal day has increased by 6.5, or each Venusian sidereal day, has increased by 6.5 minutes in that time span.
Do you think they just, like, if you had somebody living on there, like, would you celebrate New Year's or just tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
All right, we got 2 left, 8 and 10.
10. I'm 36 years old, but I'm like 30 days old.
Yeah.
Anyways, you said 10?
Yep.
What is the average temperature on Mars? Minus 81 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
The average?
Yep.
So that would be like the heat and the cold. I think it gets colder than it gets hot, so I'm going to say minus 81.
Look at you.
Correct. What's the score?
8-6.
Does Danny have a chance to come back?
Not unless you got something planned at the end.
This is dumb. There better be.
The average temperature, well, you hated the bonus last time.
This time I want it.
The average temperature on Mars is 81 degrees, minus 81 Fahrenheit, but surface temperatures can reach a high of about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like a nice day here at its equator, and a low of about negative 243 Fahrenheit at the poles.
Interesting. All right, let's wrap it up with number 8.
8. How many moons does Mars have?
The moons.
Wait, are you doing this one?
Yep. It got the answer in there.
So how many moons does Mars have? 0, 1, 2, or no moons, but it does have 14. No moons, but it does have 14 known asteroids that are too small to be categorized as moons orbiting it. It's thought to have captured these orbiting companions with its gravity from the nearby asteroid belt.
Why is it so specific? That is such a long answer. I feel like that's like should be it, because that's like you spent so much time on it. That's why I picked it the last time, or the other one.
This time I could be tricking you, or I could be the real thing.
I just want to pick it. I want to pick it.
You're going to?
Yes.
Suck,
Okay.
Trav.
Yeah! I made all that up. Does it sound
All right.
real?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go with 0.
I only did it because I wanted Trav to get it again. Okay, you're going with 0 for Mars?
Yes. 1.
It's 2.
Come on.
I was gonna say 2. I should have gotten another turn. Whatever.
Hang on.
Neither of us got it.
Mars moons are among the smallest in the solar system. Phobos, 13.8 miles across, is a bit larger than Deimos, 7.8 miles across, and orbits only 30,700 miles above the Martian surface. No known moon orbits closer to its planet. It whips around Mars 3 times a day. So the moon comes around 3 times a day.
You know, it could.
So somebody was like,
That's
which moon do you like the most? And he's like, Deimos. He's like, well, no, I know that's my question. Which one do you like the most? Deimos.
so dumb.
It whips around 3 times a day, while the more distant Deimos takes 30 hours to orbit each day.
Takes the most time.
To orbit.
Well done, Trav.
Phobos, you're going to like this part, Trav. Phobos is gradually spiraling inward, drawing about 6 feet closer to the planet each century. Within 50 million years, it will either crash into Mars or break up and form a ring around the planet.
See?
You're going to love that.
Also, another reason why I don't be on Mars. There could be a giant meteor. Or moon, really. Because it's not a meteor. It's a moon. Phobos.
So what's the score?
8 to 6.
8 to 6.
Who's winning?
Me.
Is that all the questions?
Yep.
Okay, we do have a bonus winner-take-all question.
All right.
Finally.
And this one goes to who's losing? Danny.
Yep.
I wanted this one to go to Trav. But you can both answer it. But Danny, if he gets it correct, he'll win.
What's the whole purpose of the game? Because whoever's
It's
losing
a yes
just
or no question. Do you think we should colonize Mars, and why or why not?
That is...
Wait, is there a right or wrong answer to this?
I don't know.
I think we should colonize Mars because that will split up the human race into 2 different planets. So if something were to happen to one of the planets, there could still be humans alive to carry on the species.
Travis?
No, because of many things we've talked about. And if we're going to murder our planet, we don't deserve to live on another. So...
Danny's correct.
Yes.
Just kidding.
1-1, Trav.
All right.
You won on
such a bullcrap thing. At least when I won, it was like a legit thing. Like I picked the right one.
True or false?
Still,
You did have a 50-50.
you had.
I had a 50-50.
You did
'cause it was
not.
a yes or a no.
But you knew that all you had to say was yes, because it's all about the opinion of the quiz maker.
You could have said yes.
Well, yeah, but if I would have said yes, would we have both won?
That's the rules.
All right. Well, thank you, Alan, for that.
Let's jump into
the final question. Is the Madden curse real or fake?
Hey, you want big-time football? The hits, the boom, the doink, the whap. It's all here. This is my game.
Yeah. I just want to point out that I really miss John Madden. He was the best one to listen to because he said so many funny things, and so many stupid things. But
he was always good for
He
some
died?
like literal.
no, he's just not doing it anymore.
Oh.
Literal explanation of something,
Yeah.
or like like, well, they're down by 4 points, 3 seconds left. They're gonna need a touchdown to win.
That's all right. And he also loved Brett Favre so much that he'd just be talking about whatever, and he'd tie it into Brett Favre. He'd be like, you know what? I like coming to this stadium. They got really good grass. You want to talk about good grass? Let's talk about good quarterback. Brett Favre. He's a good quarterback.
I thought you were gonna at least go into like jeans or
Nope.
something, and then tie it to Brett Favre and how he advertised Wranglers.
No, it's grass. But anyway, if you're not familiar with it, so there have been football video games back. I don't know. Was the first one Tecmo Bowl? I don't know if it was.
Think of,
It's the first one I can
I
think
don't know
of.
how
But
you could
they
have
probably
got
had
like more simple than Tecmo Bowl, though.
Yeah.
like and actually made it been like still it's football.
Yeah, there could have been some other ones. Maybe even before video games, it was just that one, like metal, like football filled, where you just put guys on there and they're all magnetized, and then it like vibrates, and then they're just all like, it's like it's not even a game. It's like I'm just watching these guys like vibrate. That sounds weird. But anyway, so since the beginning of Madden, so it started back in 1999. And the idea was that, they wanted to take the kind of like it player, the I'm not saying like always the MVP or anything, but just like a really, like one of the most popular players of the year, and they're going to throw him on that year's version of Madden. I've always had a problem with Madden because it's a game that you can literally only play for like a year, because then everything updates, and then you got to go out and buy the new one. And that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's been since 2009 since I've purchased one, because after 2009, I said to myself, I'm like, because I'm a Bears fan, and I was like, I am not purchasing another Madden until the Bears are a good team again.
Wait, so shouldn't you have purchased last year?
Well, yeah, but how would I have known? It
you have
always
to
comes out.
project
Yeah,
it.
it always comes out the year prior. So this year would be the best time because it's based on last year's stats.
Oh, okay. So are you going to buy this year's?
I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. But
But it's like my son who owns every NBA 2K version since like 2008 or something like that.
Yeah. So with the Madden curse, it has been known, or at least
Wait, I totally spaced. really quick. How does it work again?
I'm getting to it. I haven't
You haven't
talked
described
about
it?
No.
What it is? Okay,
So-
I thought I missed that part.
Alan thought he's been checked out for like a half hour.
I came back to the conversation. I was like, oh, crap.
So whenever they
not gonna know what they're
put
saying.
a player on the cover of the game, the next year they either have like some type of a down year, or it can even extend past that and like just have a horrible rest of their career.
Like injuries,
or just statistically, or
They move teams.
yeah, something like that. And so I was thinking, and I think it's just because I saw a commercial for the new one coming out, and I was like, or maybe that already is out. I don't know when they come out, but it's because the Bears haven't been good for so long that I haven't cared.
No, I think it already came out because there's a big to do about it, like right before the preseason started.
Oh, okay.
And some players were mad because they didn't have as good of like Madden ratings.
That's right. Okay, yeah, it's
And
come out.
others
Or at
were
least the
like-
ratings have come out. So I don't know if about the game, but anyway, so I saw that and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, how many because I've heard of the curse. I know of a few of them in the past, but I don't know all of them dating back to 1999. And so found an article on CBSSports.com that pretty much goes through them all. And we're just going to kind of go one by one. They're little quips. And but we'll see if the Madden curse really does exist. So and the thing is, so the covers go back to 1999, but basically the way they say, so like if whatever one came out on 1999, that was actually for the 2000 year.
Yeah, it's like
So-
the following year
Yeah.
is when the curse happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the year 2000, the player on the cover was Detroit Lions running back Barry Sanders. And so Sanders is one of the
So he was on the 99 cover.
I think so. I mean, it says 2000 on this, but we'll get the gist.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so Sanders is actually one of the greatest running backs. I mean, if you know who he is, to play the game. But his abrupt, unexpected, and controversial retirement came in July 1999, meaning he never set foot on the field after landing the spot on the Madden cover.
Maybe he knew, and that's why he's like, oh, "F this, I ain't gonna."
He's the first one. He's like, I hear there's a curse. It's coming.
I don't want to break my neck or anything, so
I don't know
I'm
why
retiring.
he's a hillbilly in the way that we're portraying him, but
Well, his name is Barry.
What? So all berries are hillbillies?
Well, it sounds country-ish.
yeah.
Hey, Barry.
But anyway, so the verdict on that one, cursed. So basically, what we're gonna do is as we
He
go
never
through,
played again.
Yeah, we're gonna go through each of these and just determine whether he's cursed or not cursed. So,
Do you want me
2001.
to track it.
No, actually, it tracks it on here.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've already tracked it. But 2001 Tennessee Titans running back Eddie George was on the cover. And George went on to rush for more than 1,500 yards in his cover season. But he also lost a career-high number of fumbles, coughed up the ball in the Titans' season-ending playoff game, and never averaged more than 3.4 yards per carry for the rest of his career. Verdict?
3.4.
Yeah. Verdict? Cursed.
Wait,
Not
who's
till the very end.
who's making the verdicts?
Apparently, is the article or
The article is,
Okay.
but I mean, you guys can chime in. I mean, yeah, he had a good year rushing, but I mean, what it all comes down, I mean, I guess they're kind of looping everything in there. He had a career high number of fumbles,
Yeah.
plus he coughed it up on the very end of the playoff game, which they lost. And
So
And
here's
he
what
never ran.
what I'm gonna do is
His average yardage went
I'm
down.
gonna act
yeah.
like I'm going through this in real time with your thing and see at what point I would be like, I think there's a curse. Because the first year I wouldn't have thought anything because one, it's the first year
Yeah.
and he just retired. That could happen.
yeah, this is all
Two,
hindsight, obviously.
It's like running backs do fall fall off a cliff often, so I probably wouldn't have thought much of it. So let's go to year 3.
All right, 2002, Minnesota Vikings QB Dante Culpepper. After throwing 33 touchdowns and going 11-5 as a first-time starter in 2000, Culpepper took a nosedive during his cover season. Injuries wiped out 6 games. He fumbled 16 times, threw just 14 touchdowns compared to 13 picks, and went 4-7 in his starts.
13 touchdowns?
14 touchdowns.
Compared to what was it?
13
something?
picks. He had 14 touchdowns, 13 picks, and
He
lost
missed
16. Missed 6 games, but fumbled 16 times.
Jeez, crazy.
I remember that year.
Yeah, because I've always wondered, like, what happened to Dante Pettis?
Dante Culpepper.
Or
First of
Dante
all,
Culpepper.
Dante Pettis is on the 49ers currently. And Culpepper actually
I remember the
bounced
days
back
of him.
after that, though. He actually played pretty well after that year for a couple more seasons until he was traded to the
But
Dolphins.
the curse doesn't mean
That's fine.
the
It
rest
doesn't
of
mean
their
the rest of their career. It
Yeah,
just means
just means the next year.
yeah. And
Yeah,
sometimes
but it could
the rest of their
last the
career.
rest,
But
yeah.
But yeah,
verdict
bad year.
cursed. 2003 St. Louis Rams running back Marshall Faulk. The Hall of Famer entered his cover season having logged 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons and 3 straight 1,300-yard campaigns. But in 2002, Faulk broke down, missing almost a half dozen starts and never topping 1,000 yards again, ever.
He was on the Rams, right?
Yeah.
With Breeze?
No.
Was Breeze on the Rams?
It was
Who was the quarterback?
Kurt Warner.
Warner, that's who it was.
verdict.
Cursed.
2004 Atlanta Falcons QB Michael Vick. In the game, Vick was unstoppable thanks to his unmatched speed, and that's talking about the Madden game. But on the field, despite exploding onto the scene as the number 1 pick, a fractured fibula less than a week after the game's release sidelined him for all but 5 games. 4 years later, he was in jail.
Oh, yeah, the dogs.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Verdict cursed. 2005 Baltimore Ravens linebacker Ray Lewis. So his interception total dropped from 6 to 0 in 2004, which was his cover year, and the Ravens also missed the playoffs. But that's nitpicking. He still logged 147 tackles. If we were talking about the next year, there might be a case as he missed 10 games. But
Yeah, because I was going to say, I didn't ever see him like take a huge dip.
yeah, no, they're nitpicking
But-
at that one, but the verdict is not cursed.
I also didn't know they ever put defensive players on the cover.
Well, he's got a big personality, too. I think that helps.
Oh.
2006, Philadelphia Eagles QB Donovan McNabb. So McNabb hit his peak in 2004, throwing 31 touchdowns and leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl. But 2005 was rock bottom. He scuffled with Terrell Owens and missed almost half of a 6-10 season. He went on to miss 8 games over the next 2 years, too. Verdict cursed. 2007 Seattle Seahawks running back Sean Alexander. Like Falk, he entered the cover year with 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons under his belt, and his dominance also came to a halt in 2006, his rushing total dropped from 1,880 to 896. And 2 years later, he was out of the NFL, a Washington Redskins washout. Verdict cursed. 2008 Tennessee Titans QB Vince Young. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2006. For his cover year, though, Young threw just 9 touchdowns compared to 17 interceptions. Missed a game and earned a seat on the bench for 2008, never fully regaining Jeff Fisher's trust.
So wait, I didn't. He had a good year
Yeah,
Apparently.
was he the
because he was awesome
he the
in college, but
Texas Longhorns guy?
Rookie
Yeah.
of the Year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I always thought he just kind of came in and never really was that great.
He was
but-
good enough to get on Madden, but he was cursed. 2009 Green Bay Packers / New York Jets QB Brett Favre. So what is it?
EA Sports.
EA Sports. What's EA stand for? It's like something arts, entertainment arts. I don't know. Began making Favre the cover athlete as a tribute to his Packers career, which had just ended. But then Favre forced his way out and into New York. All he did there was throw an NFL-high 22 interceptions and hurt his shoulder before moving to Minnesota. Cursed.
Wait,
Wasn't
so did
that
he be
also when he got in trouble for sending
dick pics?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, to the
Yeah.
Wait, did you said he
Journalist.
retired and then came back?
No, it just said before ending there and then moving to Minnesota.
Okay.
2010 Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, but also they had, I remember this because they also had some other versions where it was Pittsburgh Steelers strong safety Troy Polamalu.
Oh.
And so Fitz had one of his standard Pro Bowl seasons with more than 1,000 yards, but Polamalu missed a career-high 11 games in 2009 thanks to an MCL injury, recording a career-low 20 tackles before sticking to the sidelines. Verdict, half cursed.
Electronic Arts is what
Electronic Arts, that's what it was, not entertainment. 2011 New Orleans Saints QB Drew Brees. Throwing 33 touchdowns and earning another Pro Bowl selection is good stuff, but Brees had what constitutes as an off year this season. He graced the cover, throwing a career high and franchise record 22 picks. His Saints also lost to the 7-9 Seahawks in the playoffs.
I remember that year.
I don't think he's cursed.
He was that year. He's not cursed anymore, but he was cursed then.
Yeah.
2012. Cleveland Browns running back Peyton Hillis.
Who? For real? He made it?
Yep. And I actually watched. Oh, this is actually why I picked this, because I watched the thing on it. And how, like, he was. Because there was, like, a lot of voting going on. And he was just, like, one of many. And he had a good year the year prior. But he wasn't, like, better than a lot of the other.
Well, he was kind of like
people that were up for
no
it.
name that just kind of like popped a little bit that year.
Yeah.
That's why I'm surprised he made the cover of Madden.
And then it just trickled down, and it was like everybody in Cleveland must have been voting like numerous times. And then because he was like super surprised that he got it. But anyway, so it says on here, it says, you forgot about him, didn't you? Hillis grunted his way to 1,000 yards as a surprise lead back in 2010. But during his cover year, he missed a half dozen games with an injury, averaged just 3.6 yards per carry, and ran his way into a journeyman backup career. Verdict, cursed. So to 2013, Detroit Lions wide receiver, Calvin Johnson. Megatron. If anyone broke the curse, it was Johnson, who had both a career and historic season the year he was on the cover. Although, like Barry Sanders before him, he retired relatively early a few years later. 2012 saw him post a whopping 1,964 receiving yards.
Holy cow.
Not cursed.
Almost 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Dang.
Why he's called Megatron? Because he's just big or something?
He's amazing.
Yeah, it's his nickname. But he was known to like anything within like 10 feet radius of him he could catch. Like they did like sports science on him, and
dang,
he could get there.
2004.
Wait, that was the Giants?
No,
Detroit Lions.
Oh, Detroit Lions.
2014 Minnesota Vikings running back Adrian Peterson.
Cursed.
If Johnson shattered the curse, Peterson may have reignited it in 2013. Fresh off his sixth 1,000-yard season and 2 years removed from a historic 2,000-yard campaign, he missed all but one game after being indicted on child abuse charges.
All right, that's cursed.
Yeah, cursed. 2015 Seattle Seahawks cornerback Richard Sherman. His interception total dropped, and his Seahawks failed to repeat as Super Bowl champions. But otherwise, Sherman was still at the top of his game during his cover year. It was only after the season he had to undergo Tommy John surgery, so not cursed. Because although his team didn't make it, that doesn't mean that he was cursed. So, 2016 New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham. There's a case to be made that 2015, Beckham's cover year, is when the flamboyant wide receiver really started rubbing people the wrong way, especially with a one-game suspension for his fight with Josh Norman, which I do remember. But he still dominated on the field with 1,400 yards. Not cursed. Almost there.
You had him on your fantasy team.
I did.
And you won.
Was that the year that he like proposed to the kicking net?
I think so. Yeah, he was having because he like got in a I think it was after a fight. Like he went over and he kicked the kicking net and he like broke it or something. And then the next week he like went and said sorry to the kicking net, and then he proposed to it. So in 2017, New England Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski, the 5-time Pro Bowler, was coming off another double-digit touchdown season in 2016. But he missed virtually all of the Patriots' first 4 games with a hamstring injury, then finished with just 6 starts due to a herniated disc and other injury issues. Verdict cursed. And finally, Tom Brady. 2018.
Oh, I hope he's cursed.
With a chance to win a 6th Lombardi trophy, Brady was bested by the Eagles' backup Nick Foles in Super Bowl 52. But he still threw for more than 500 yards in the game after winning yet another MVP award at the age of 40. He's immune to the curse. Not cursed. So basically when it comes down to it, so what does history tell us? So using the verdicts, 9 out of 10 cover athletes from 1999 to 2009 were actually cursed, whereas just 5.5 out of 10 have been cursed in the last 10 years. So
maybe the curse is losing its
maybe
power.
It's losing its power. We don't know, but we know overall, I mean, we're talking about 14.5 cursed people and 5.5 not cursed. So I'd say it's more cursed than not cursed. But
so if you could go though back through that and just figure out if you could take out the running backs, it'd be interesting to see how many were cursed and how many weren't cursed, because running backs, it makes sense. Like after a lot of those, you're like after 4 seasons, after 5 seasons of then they fell off, but that's normal.
yeah,
So it'd be interesting to go back and just see of the non-running backs, how many were cursed.
I'm not going to do that right now, but we can do it
not
later.
right now. You can do it later. Okay.
But anyway, that's it for the day, for the show. Thanks for listening in. Like always, we ask you to come or we invite you to come and speak with us on our website, qcodepodcast.com. You can also catch us on our social media pages, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at QCode Podcast. And, of course, leave us 5-star review if you like what you hear. Other than that...
did you mention YouTube?
We can catch us on YouTube and everywhere else that you're listening to us.
I'm making pretty sweet videos for our episodes with visuals.
You can listen to them there.
Yeah, so if you want to check them out on YouTube.
Like a screensaver,
Pretty much.
basically. But it's better than nothing.
That is true.
Have you guys have been watching them?
I've seen them.
They're not just screensavers. Okay, we'll discuss this later.
Maybe I haven't watched the last few.
What have I been editing all these videos for? Making
going
them
on
nice
YouTube.
and sweet.
All right. Thanks, everybody, again for listening. We'll catch you next week.